Hello, welcome to 1-6 Notes. I have some good news for you. If you know how to draw straight line graphs, linear graphs, something like this. Well, that was a terrible straight line. And from the last section, you learned how to graph V-shaped graphs. Then this is going to be insanely easy because the extra detail is in this box right here. So first of all, number one, make sure the f of x or the y is first or on the left side of your answer, your equation, inequality. Secondly, you're going to have to shade. So can you color or not? Can you color below a line? Can you color above a V-shaped line? And if you can, that part's going to be cake. And lastly, decide whether you need some solid lines or dashed lines. And we'll get to all that here momentarily. So let's get on with it. Graph. Now I have seen people do this and it drives me insane. So I'm going to scroll down even further just to show you. Finally, down here, it says absolute values. So number 5, number 6 has an absolute value symbol in it. It makes a V-shaped graph. Do you see absolute value symbol in 3 and 4? No, it does not make a V-shape. Do you see an absolute value symbol in number 1 and 2? No, it does not make a V-shape. And yet I have people make V-shapes for these and non-V-shapes for the other ones. So come on, guys, put a little thought into that. No absolute value symbol, going to be a regular old straight line. And how does a regular old straight line work? Well, it works off of this form right here. So is number 1 in slope-intercept form is the y by itself? Yes. So f of x means the same thing as y. I already know that I have a y-intercept of 5. I already know my slope is negative 2 over 1, which means I need to count down 2 over 1 and make sure that my line is tilted to the left when I'm done with it. The more points you do, the more accurate your line. There we go. So the box did say, and I guess we could go back up and look, that if you have an equal to symbol underneath, that's right here, you're making a solid line. If you don't have the equal to symbol underneath, you're making a dashed line. Well, this one has the equal to symbol underneath, and I'm talking about the original problem right here. So if it does have the equal to symbol, we're going solid line. That second problem over to the right, we're going to go dashed line. And I almost hit the dots, so you get the idea. And then the next thing, or the next question is, can you color? I'm going to go with the highlighter. So where do I color? Well, this is greater than. The y's are greater than. The y-axis goes up and down, so think in terms of up and down. So greater than means all the y's above the line that we just did. Shade how you want it. Draw me pictures if you want. Color it completely in if you want. Make dash lines, make scribbly lines, I don't care. We're indicating that that section that we just graphed over in here is where the answers to this particular problem are. And that's it. That's all we got to do. So like I said, if you were already pretty good at drawing linear graphs and V-graphs, this is going to be insanely easy for you. Number 2, is it in slope-intercept form? Yes, the y is by itself. Y-intercept to negative 4. Slope of 2/3, up 2 over 3. Notice my line will tilt to the right when I'm done. Now, can you make more dots? Yes. I can't fit any more in my graph. So if you learn the geometry, 2 dots does in fact make a straight line. But now here's the thing, and you can always catch yourself later if you use a pencil as an eraser. This thing doesn't work that great, so I'm going to have to be paying attention now. So I see the fact that this guy, the symbol, does not have the equal sign underneath it. And if it does not have the equal sign, I make a dashed line. That's the same thing as like having a whole bunch of open circles. So when we did a number line graph, which is only one direction, so we did the open and closed circles. So for these, since it's a two-dimensional graph, that represents it's saying, hey, those guys right on the line do not count. But everything above or below, depending on what the problem says, is where the answer is. So let's break out the highlighter again. And I'm going to ask you, less than. The y's are less than. So where are y's that are less than that line? They are underneath, smaller, down below. So all we got to do is shade down below. And that's it. We're done. So these are pretty easy. All right, number 3. So on number 3, you will notice the y is not by itself. Life's tough sometimes. But you should be experts at this by now. How do I get the x to the other side? I would subtract him, which means his sign would change. How do I get rid of the 4? I divide. So divide by 4 down to y. Divide by 4. Well, divide by 4. There's no number to divide by 4, but we better keep track of that negative sign. And if I divide the 20 by 4, I get 5. And there we go. We got slope-intercept form. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for my intercept. Understood to be a 1 there, so I get a slope of negative 1/4. Down 1 over 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, that's all the dots I'm going to be able to fit on my grid. You are welcome to make a grid bigger or use graph paper that's bigger to fit more dots. But 2 will do. But I do have to determine whether I'm drawing a solid or dashed line. I don't see an equal to sign underneath here. And without the equal sign, I am making a dashed line. And I wish that this app had such a thing, but it does not. That wasn't too bad, though. All right, and then the question again is, where do you shade this guy? Do you shade above or below? Well, I want to talk about where I got y by itself. Y by itself said y is greater than is above. So I'm going to shade up here. Okay. Didn't give myself a very good grid there, but again, I hope you get the idea. Now, number 4 should be the easiest problem, or one of the easiest problems, and yet it gets missed a ton of times. And the confusing part is the fact that there is no x. But guys, if you would just commit this to memory, and I would love for you to do so, if you have an equation that only has a y in it, it's constant, it will make a horizontal line. Okay, but I still have to get the y by itself. So let's do that first. So I'm going to move the 1 over, left with the negative 2. I move the 1 over by subtracting. I would be down to 6. All right, details, details, details. People, this is what keeps people from getting good grades in math, not necessarily what's going on between your ears. If I'm going to divide by negative 2, which is how I'm going to get rid of that guy, and if I divide by negative, I get the y by itself. I get negative 3 over here. But do you remember what happens to that greater than sign if I divide by negative? It's supposed to flip. So y is less than or equal to negative 3. So as far as the slope goes, you can think about the fact that there's no x. There's 0 x's. So it would be 0 slope. So it's a horizontal line. So the y-intercept is still negative 3 because it's what it literally says in the problem. Now, do I make a solid line or do I make a dashed line? Well, I got the equal to underneath, so I'm going solid line. And if I'm making a solid line, I can actually use the line feature. Yay. Notice it doesn't put the arrows on the end, though. Also drives me crazy. Now, if you had to make a mistake, let's say you're taking a quiz, smart thing to do would be before you turn in the quiz, go back and look at all your lines. You could go and take an eraser and make that into a dashed line very easily. So, where do I shade? Less than, so underneath. So, how do you want to shade? You want to shade with scribblies. That was an attempt at a smiley face, believe it or not. There we go. What a heart. Terrible heart. Anyhow, shade with however you would like to make the math teacher happy. Okay, that's it. Horizontal line, shade below, solid line. Okay, I'm going to squeeze one in here real quick for number 5. Okay, you got to know though, right? I am doing an absolute value graph. An absolute value graph makes a V shape. And I know to find a vertex, I switch the sign of the number inside. I keep the number outside. And I graph a 2, 1. What's the slope? So I can still do slopes for V-graphs because they are straight lines. Number in front of the x is understood to be a 1. Therefore, I can go up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. But here's the key. You've got to remember, you're making a V shape for this one. If I'm making a V shape, I got to go opposite direction and make it symmetrical. I don't see an equal to. If I don't see an equal to, I'm making a dashed line. So the only thing keeping me from being done here is to shade. Well, it's a V-shaped graph. That doesn't make it any tougher. It still says greater than, and greater than means above. So I got to shade above my graph that I just made. Just coincidentally, it's a V. So if you want to think in terms of inside or outside of the V, that'll work as well. But nonetheless, it's still up, greater than, or above. All right, next part 2 video, we'll finish this up. Thanks for watching.